But okay, now very recent international comparisons have made clear that there are some weaknesses in achievement. Achievement is, and these problems we particularly noticed among boys. And if you look the international comparison studies and divide them so, the very recent ones, that there are only girls from different countries are included, then the Finnish girls are on the same level than girls from Singapore or Hong Kong, Korea, not South Korea, but or Japan in mathematics. But then if we look at the boys, something strange has happened among the boys. And earlier it was clear that boys had higher achievement than girls. Then they were on the same level, and now girls have, even in mathematics and science, a little bit better achievement than boys. In reading, it was of course opposite in Finland and many other countries, that girls always have been much better in reading and writing than boys. But this has been a kind of alarming situation, what is happening there. But the problem in mathematics, and I now move to mathematics, was in fact already visible in national surveys and these national evaluation studies, and also there's more focused studies, for example, of our own research group. Far before this change started to happen in PISA studies or some other international comparison studies. And first there was a decrease in motivation of mathematics, and then even though students still were relatively good in problem solving, but then when we looked the conceptual understanding, that was not on the level that then would guarantee that also in future they would learn mathematics in the relevant way. So all this was known already before this changes in the international comparison studies did show some changes of Finnish students. Now I don't go so much to this boy question. In this general lecture about the Finnish educational system, I was particularly discussing that because this seems to be a more broader societal question, and schools, they have nothing happened in the schools which has caused it, but there are general changes in the society, and then the schools have not yet been able to react to that in the adequate way. But I go to mathematics, and one of the findings was that in our local studies that when children come to the primary school, there are already very big differences in the mathematical thinking, in this kind of very early mathematical skills. And that's of course the same also in reading. But then when we follow what happens in reading skills, when school starts, then the achievement differences decrease. But in the mathematics, it's on the opposite. In the mathematics, these relatively big differences which are when the children come to the school, they increased. And because of that, we are thinking that now it's very important to focus to that question, that what happens before students come to the school. And then the other thing was the motivation. The studies, these domestic studies, did show that somehow students were considering mathematics as something completely isolated, so that it's not related to anything. And because it's not related to anything, they were not quite many of them were not motivated to study mathematics. So that somehow this kind of natural numerical thinking, what children already have before school age, didn't continue in the beginning of primary school, but mathematics became this kind of isolated things. And this was the starting point for our the different aspects of our studies on long-term development of number concept. And they were clearly based on these findings on the system. But maybe before I go to that, do you have now questions or comments which are related to this general part of the educational system? Maybe it's better to have because you remember better what I have been telling, and now you could ask questions or comments about it.
前半部分に関して何かコメントや質問ありますか。後半部分は数学学習の話に入りますが。
Do you have a different qualification? Do you require different qualifications for teaching, for teachers teaching special ed?
Yes. Special education teachers have it is a part of the same teacher education model, but then during there are three different trajectories to special education, but this is a separate qualification, so that typically the teachers have a kind of double qualification. They have qualification as a primary school teachers and special education teacher, or they have qualification as
stay in university longer.
So it can be organized also within the degree, that it's not necessary very much longer. In reality, it's a little bit longer studies if they also have the special education.
How specialized are they? Are they specialized in, for example, are some teachers specialized in teaching deaf children, while others specialized in blind children, and in others are specialized in dyslexic children?
Yes. This happens, so that these teachers teaching the students with serious disabilities, deaf and blind children, they have a very focused education, and then there is the kind of general special education focusing on reading difficulties, mathematical difficulties, behavioral difficulties, and so this is more kind of unified kind of expertise what they should have.
I have another
Yes.
question. So you said part-time teachers, help
Yes.
teachers working.
Or the not part-time teachers, but that is part-time special education. The teacher was a full-time teacher, but the students are part-time in special education. Most of the time they are in the regular classroom, and then a short time they are in the special education.
So students are part-time.
Students, yes, it was.
Teachers are not.
No. I'm sorry if I was unclear in describing that.
Okay. So there are no concept of part-time teachers that just help a particular group of children.
No, basically all the teachers are full-time teachers, and then in primary and secondary, lower secondary, upper secondary level, and then maybe in upper secondary level there are some very specific topics where we need only a little bit teaching, and there we have part-time teachers. But then these helping people, some of them work full-time in school, some part-time. they are typically people who want to become a teacher. They have graduated from high school, and then they work 1 or 2 years as a helping workforce in a classroom, helping the classroom teacher.